Nix hesitated, measuring her words carefully. We found evidence that humans are genetically compatible with multiple species, including Stellarians, not just capable of producing viable offspring, but offspring with enhanced capabilities, which directly contradicts imperial propaganda about human genetic inferiority, Theron said. It also explains Emperor Zareth's obsession with preventing human-alien relationships. Orion added thoughtfully, if humans can breed with other species and create enhanced offspring, it threatens the crystalline empire's racial hierarchy, Theron finished, makes the anti-mixing laws about control, not purity. Nix nodded. Julian and I discovered something else. The Empire has been experimenting with forced genetic splicing between humans and multiple species. Why? Orion asked. Biological weapons development, she replied grimly. Using hybrid physiology to create living weapons immune to species-specific vulnerabilities. Silence descended as implications sank in. Theron moved to a viewport, gazing at the stars streaking by. We go back, he decided finally. Not just for Julian, but for the research. If the Empire is developing biological weapons using hybrid genetics, the Resistance needs to know. Orion agreed reluctantly. But we'll need help. Contact the Nexus cell on Araxis Prime, Theron instructed. We need infiltration gear and updated security protocols for Proxima. As the men discussed logistics, Nix approached Theron, her luminescence dimmed to a private glow. Why are you really helping me? She asked quietly. The truth this time. Theron met her gaze. For a moment, his carefully constructed facade fell away, revealing someone who had carried a burden far too long. Because 5 years ago, I watched the Empire execute my sister for loving someone with different genetics, he answered. And I promised her it wouldn't happen again. Not if I could stop it. Understanding passed between them, wordless but profound. Nix's hand moved toward his, stopping just short of contact. There's something else you should know, she said. The research Julian and I conducted. We used our own genetic material as primary samples. Theron's eyes widened slightly. You and Julian are evidence that imperial doctrine is a lie, she confirmed. And that truth is what Emperor Zareth fears most. The ship's engines shifted tone as Orion adjusted their course. Beyond the viewport, stars rearranged themselves into new constellations, illuminating the darkness as they headed toward an uncertain future. And back into the heart of danger, the capital world of the crystalline empire glittered like a malevolent jewel against the black velvet of space. From orbit, its cities formed intricate geometric patterns, beautiful and cold, much like the empire itself. Magnificent and terrible, Nix murmured. Standing beside her on the observation deck of the Resistance vessel, now disguised as an imperial supply ship, Theron nodded grimly. 3 weeks had passed since their escape from Proxima Station. 3 weeks of planning, gathering intelligence, and infiltrating imperial networks. Now they approached the very heart of Emperor Zareth's domain. The Grand Spire, Orion indicated, pointing to a towering crystal structure that dominated the central city. Imperial Palace, research facility, and prison all in one. If they've moved Julian from Proxima, he'll be there. Theron studied the tactical display, security protocols. The heaviest in the Empire, Orion replied. But we have one advantage. The annual crystalline convergence begins tomorrow. The only time Emperor Zareth appears publicly before representatives from every conquered world. A display of dominance disguised as diplomacy, Nix observed. And our opportunity, Theron concluded. During the convergence, security focuses outward. Internal protocols relax slightly to accommodate the increased traffic. Their plan was audacious to the point of insanity. Infiltrate the most heavily guarded facility in the Empire, locate Julian, extract him and his research data, then escape during the convergence ceremony. The Resistance had provided them with forged credentials, disguises, and technology, but success depended more on courage and timing than equipment. As they prepared for landing, Theron found Nyx in her quarters, adjusting the molecular suppressors that temporarily dimmed her natural luminescence, a crucial element of her disguise as a Proxian delegate. "Final equipment check," he said, placing a small case on her desk. Inside lay communication devices, neural scramblers, and emergency transponders, the suppressors holding. "Adequately," she replied, though discomfort showed in her eyes. Stellarians required their natural light processes for optimal health. Suppressing them too long could cause physical damage. Theron noticed her discomfort. 10 hours maximum, he reminded her. "Any longer, and we aboard find another way. There won't be another opportunity." Determination hardened her voice. "Julian has been in Imperial custody for nearly a month. If they've begun aggressive interrogation," she didn't need to finish. They both knew what Imperial interrogation entailed. "We'll find him," Theron promised. Their eyes met, and the air between them charged with something neither acknowledged openly. A connection deepened during their weeks together, planning, strategizing, learning to trust. Theron took a step closer, then stopped as Orion's voice came through the intercom. "Approaching final descent. Primary inspection in 5 minutes." The moment broken, they resumed their preparations in silence. Landing proceeded without incident. Their cover identities: Theron as security attaché to Nyx's minor diplomatic representative, passed preliminary scrutiny. They disembarked into the imposing reception hall of the Grand Spire, its crystalline walls amplifying and fragmenting light into disorienting patterns. Delegates from throughout the Empire filled the space, creating controlled chaos that provided perfect cover. Imperial guards monitored from strategic positions, their black armor absorbing light rather than reflecting it, the only dark elements in the glittering environment. "Proceed to diplomatic quarters," Section J7, instructed an Imperial protocol droid. "Convergence preparations begin at dawn rotation." They complied, moving through the crowd with purposeful calm. Orion, posing as their pilot, separated to establish their secondary extraction point. The plan required precise coordination between 3 teams, themselves inside the spire, Orion securing escape routes, and a resistance cell creating the diversion that would cover their final extraction. Their assigned quarters overlooked the central ceremonial plaza where tomorrow's convergence would take place. Already, massive crystal displays were being erected, broadcasting Imperial propaganda in shifting light patterns. 7 hours until security rotation, Theron noted, activating jamming devices to ensure their privacy. "That's our window to reach the research levels." Nyx removed a data crystal from her sleeve. Station schematics obtained from Imperial archives. The crystal projected a 3-dimensional map of the spire's interior. Rotating it slowly, they identified key security checkpoints and possible detention areas. "Research laboratories occupy levels 60 through 80, Nyx indicated. High-value prisoners would be kept close to the laboratories for convenient access. Level 75 has anomalous power consumption, Theron observed, consistent with advanced containment systems. Their strategy formed: use the diplomatic credentials to access the upper levels, then exploit maintenance passages to reach level 75 during the security rotation. Locate Julian, extract him and his data, then rendezvous with Orion during the convergence ceremony's peak moment when all attention would focus on Emperor Zareth. Simple in concept, nearly impossible in execution. As darkness fell over the capital, they moved into position. The diplomatic access codes functioned as expected, granting them entry to the upper levels. From there, they navigated maintenance corridors, avoiding patrols with the help of Theron's scanner technology. "Security rotation commencing," announced the facility's AI system. "All personnel, verify protocols." For 60 seconds, surveillance systems would reset, their moment to access the restricted research levels. Theron overrode the access panel, and they slipped through just as systems reactivated. Level 75 hummed with ominous energy. Unlike the ornate public areas, these corridors were sterile and utilitarian. Transparent walls revealed laboratories where scientists worked with equipment Nix recognized instantly. Genetic recombination chambers, she whispered, horror evident in her voice. They've accelerated the hybrid program. Through one viewport, they observed technicians monitoring tanks containing suspended humanoid forms. Not fully developed, more experimental prototypes than living beings. Each displayed characteristics of multiple species, combined in ways nature never intended. Biological weapons, Theron confirmed grimly. We need to document this. Nix activated a molecular scanner disguised as diplomatic jewelry, capturing data as they proceeded deeper into the facility. They located the detention cells at the corridor's end, protected by quantum locks keyed to specific genetic signatures. Julian's holding cell would be isolated. Nix reasoned. His genome is unique. They found it in a separate wing, a reinforced chamber with independent life support systems. Through the observation panel, they saw a human male slumped in a chair, electronic restraints binding his limbs. Monitoring equipment surrounded him, recording his vital signs. Julian, Nix breathed, placing her hand against the transparent barrier. Though sedated, the prisoner stirred. As if sensing her presence, Julian Reed appeared gaunt and pale, but alive. No visible signs of physical torture, though neural interface points at his temples suggested mental interrogation. Quantum lock requires authorized genetic signature, Theron noted, examining the security panel. Use mine, Nix offered. If they've been studying our research, my profile may be recognized. Risky, but possible. Theron extracted a small sample of her genetic material and applied it to the scanner. For several tense seconds, nothing happened. Then, partial match detected. Secondary authorization required. A new voice interrupted from behind. Allow me to provide it. They turned to find Commander Vex blocking the corridor, flanked by elite guards, tall and imposing even for his species. The Vexonian's exoskeleton gleamed with embedded technology. His compound eyes reflected their images multiple times. Theron Rask, Vex said, mandibles clicking with anticipation. The Empire's most wanted resistance operative, and Dr. Solera, our escaped scientist. Emperor Zareth will be pleased. Commander, Theron acknowledged, subtly shifting to shield Nix. You're looking well. How's the arm I broke on Centauri Prime? Vex's mandibles twitched angrily. Fully regenerated, as you'll discover shortly. Neither resistance operative moved toward weapons. Combat would be futile against superior numbers in such confined space. Theron's mind raced through alternatives, calculating odds and options. Take them, Vex ordered. As guards advanced, emergency alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Security breach in Sector 12, announced the AI. Unauthorized detonation detected. All personnel initiate containment procedures. Orion's diversion had come early. Something had gone wrong with the timing. But it created momentary confusion that Theron exploited instantly. He slapped an electromagnetic pulse device against the wall, shorting local systems including the guard's neural interfaces. In the ensuing chaos, Theron engaged Vex directly while Nix used the distraction to access Julian's cell with her partial genetic authorization. The commander's augmented exoskeleton gave him formidable strength, but Theron countered with speed and precision, targeting vulnerable joint connections. You fight well for a human, Vex acknowledged, landing a punishing blow to Theron's ribs. But you've made a critical miscalculation. Which is? Theron gasped, regaining his stance. Assuming Emperor Zorith didn't anticipate your arrival. The implication sent ice through Theron's veins. Behind him, Nix had freed Julian from his restraints, supporting his weakened form as they emerged from the cell. It's a trap, Theron warned. We need an alternate extraction. As if confirming his words, blast doors began closing throughout the level. They had minutes, perhaps seconds, before complete lockdown. This way, Nix called, supporting Julian toward a secondary corridor. Research evacuation tubes, emergency systems. They fought their way through the confusion, Theron keeping Vex and his recovering guards at bay while Nix guided them toward escape. The evacuation system, designed to protect valuable research materials during emergencies, consisted of pressurized tubes that could expel contents to secure collection points, large enough for a person. Theron asked doubtfully, joining them after temporarily incapacitating Vex. Barely, Nix confirmed, working the controls, but our only option. Julian, still disoriented, clutched a small data device. The research, he mumbled. Complete data. Hybrids, not weapons. Future. Later, Theron urged, helping him into the cylindrical chamber. Nix, you next. She hesitated. The tubes are single occupancy. Sequential ejection requires reset between uses. Meaning? 40 seconds between launches. The facility will be in complete lockdown before the third launch. Understanding dawned in Theron's eyes. One of them would be left behind. Go, he said firmly. Get Julian and the research to the Resistance. Theron, not negotiable, Doctor. His voice softened slightly. Complete your mission. I'll complete mine. Before she could protest further, the distinctive sound of Vex's exoskeleton announced the commander's approach. Theron made the decision for her, activating Julian's launch, then forcing Nix into the second tube. Find Orion at the secondary extraction point, he instructed as the chamber sealed. Their eyes met one final time before the system activated, shooting her through the emergency network. Theron turned to face Commander Vex, weapons ready. Just you and me now, Commander. So it seems, Vex agreed, advancing slowly, though not for long. The corridor behind him filled with Imperial guards, and beyond them, a figure that made Theron's blood freeze. Emperor Zareth himself, his crystalline form radiating cold authority. The Emperor approached, each step resonating with power. Unlike his subjects, Zareth's crystalline structure was flawless, unnaturally perfect, the result of genetic manipulation across generations. The infamous Theron Rask, Zareth observed, his voice musical yet chilling. How convenient that you delivered yourself to us. Your magnificence. Theron replied with mock reverence. Unusual to leave your throne for a simple prisoner. You are no simple prisoner. Zareth circled him contemplatively. You are the key to crushing the Resistance once and for all, and to reclaiming our escaped scientists. They're beyond your reach now. Are they? Zareth's perfect features formed a smile devoid of warmth. The convergence ceremony proceeds as planned. Every exit from the capital is monitored. Your companions merely enjoy a brief respite before capture. Theron maintained his defiant stance, though internal calculation confirmed the Emperor's assessment. Standard extraction methods would fail under such scrutiny, unless an idea formed, desperate, nearly suicidal, but potentially effective. You've lost, Theron Rask, Zareth continued, but your capture need not be your end. Cooperation could ensure your survival. Generous, Theron replied, but I've seen your version of survival. Neural recalibration, personality erasure, reprogramming. He shook his head. I prefer alternatives. There are none. Zareth gestured, and guards moved to secure him. Theron waited until they were within striking distance before triggering his final contingency. A neural disruptor implanted beneath his skin. The device activated, sending a concentrated electromagnetic pulse that temporarily paralyzed everyone within a 5-meter radius. In the momentary advantage, Theron bolted toward the facility's central shaft, an open column running the spire's entire height, used for maintenance drones. Without hesitation, he leaped into the void, plummeting through the massive structure. As consciousness faded from the disruptor's neural feedback, Theron activated his emergency transponder, a signal not to Orion, but directly to the Resistance fleet hidden beyond the planet's moon. The signal that would authorize the long-planned operation that Resistance leadership had deemed too risky until now. Operation Sunfall, a direct strike against the Empire's heart during the convergence. His last conscious thought was of Nyx, her star-flecked eyes, her unwavering courage, and the future her research promised. A future where differences between species represented strength rather than division. A future worth any sacrifice. Above him, Emperor Zareth watched his fall with cold calculation, unaware that the real trap had just been sprung, not by the Empire, but against it. The convergence would indeed mark a turning point in galactic history, though not as the Emperor intended. As darkness claimed him, Theron smiled.